And Harold, if you want to drop numbers of who's on in the chat for me, I'll be paying attention to give updates about that stuff. Good evening, good people. We're so glad that you're here with us tonight. We're going to get started in just a minute. I see that you are already doing what we do and saying hello in the chat. I want to continue in that spirit, and I want to take a moment to show some love to the team that makes these calls happen. It's more than checking a demographic box for us. This is about making sure that all of us have access to learn from each other, to build power with each other, for the sake of our people's survival and ability to thrive. So I just want to thank the interpretation team for making this more possible. Can we show some love in the chat for our incredible interpreters tonight? They've been with us this whole year and we love them. Thank you for being here. I also want to shout out the On Point team, Geronimo, all of our tech folks, the communications staff and design crew from every single one of the co-sponsoring organizations, all the staff and members that have made this possible, and to every single one of you for getting folks on the call tonight. Good evening. Welcome to this mass call to process politics and our feelings, to be reminded of our work in this time, and to learn together. As we've been doing for many months now, this mass call is our chance to take a step back as a movement and examine where we are, what the lay of the land is. We want to look at current events, but we also want to look past the punditry and put this political moment in a bigger context. So thank you for prioritizing this call tonight. Holler at your folks real quick, text them, share this out on socials, tell them to come on in and join us. Tonight's call is special and going to be incredible, so we don't want to miss folks. Tell your people to come on in the room. Today, we're going to be hearing from people on the front lines of our movement, learning together, receiving calls to action about what you can do to do your part starting tonight. I'm Ashley Woodard Henderson. I'm going to be your host for this evening. Welcome to folks who haven't missed a mass call, and to our new folks too. We're so glad that you've joined us. If you're watching on Zoom, again, I want to invite you to use the chat to say hello. You can say where you're calling in from. You can also rep your organization or your community or whatever you got going, your set. Also, I want to shout out to our folks that are watching on Instagram and YouTube. Feel free to do the same in the comments. And I'm sending some special love to our folks who can't make it live tonight, but who are going to watch the recording. We see y'all. We love you. Thank you for using this incredible opportunity to come together. We already got 1,000 people on the Zoom. I want to keep reminding you to invite your folks. We're going to learn a lot. We're going to hear from some incredible leaders, and I don't want your folks to miss it. So again, make sure you tell your people to come on in. One thing before we get into our grounding is, again, just being super clear with one another that when we fight for justice and liberation, there's always going to be some haters. The more visible that our work is, the more that they're going to come after us. They've already promised it. And it's certainly upsetting, but we won't be surprised if there are trolls on this call with us tonight. So I want to ask you that if you see any hateful messages in the Zoom chat or in the comments on the live streams, please flood the chat with messages of solidarity and love and positivity. Remember that in this sacred space that we're building and holding and sharing responsibility for together, we can disagree, but we will not be disrespectful toward each other. So if you can do that, I think we're ready to take a moment, like we always do on these calls, to get grounded. I want to think about things left unsaid. In our personal relationships, things left unsaid can cause pain, they can cause resentment, can leave people feeling regret, can leave us feeling shameful. In our politics, the things left unsaid can leave us feeling invisible, can leave our people feeling unimportant. The things left unsaid can make us feel that people like us in the communities that we come from aren't on anyone's political agenda. In this last election, I want you to think about things that were left unsaid. What were things that you wish you had heard from the people who said they were our political champions? I want you to think about it. I want you to drop your answers in the chat. What were things left unsaid that you wish you had heard from the people who said that they would be willing to show up and represent your communities with their political power? What were the things left unsaid? While y'all are doing it, I'll say a few. I see he's a fascist, more about climate change, more about a free Palestine, that this moment, this authoritarian movement trying to take power is not normal. An invitation to and a desire for us to come and actually work with them. So many more. Keep dropping them in the chat. I know for me, well, candidates talked about working at McDonald's or pretended like they had just gotten a job as a fry cook during the campaign. They left unsaid the fact that if the minimum wage had kept up with productivity, workers at McDonald's would be making $24 an hour right now. While candidates talked about the middle class, they left unsaid that for many people, even aspiring to be a part of the middle class is a dream that feels completely out of reach. We're buried in debt. We can't afford our rent that keeps going up or save enough to buy and keep a home. Millions of us have not had enough money in our bank accounts to afford one medical emergency or our car breaking down one time, the bus being late. While candidates talked about the healthcare system this and insurance and insurers that, the fact is that millions still have no access to the human right of healthcare. Even those of us who do have coverage face the endless indignity of fighting over every single claim and every single procedure. While candidates talked about tax burdens and tax incentives and tax loopholes, they left unsaid the plain to see fact that billionaires were willing to sign up for fascism just to get the short-term payout of extending their tax cuts. While candidates talked about opportunity, they left unsaid that for many people in this country, the biggest opportunity comes at the moment they inherit money. For most folks, we're not fortunate enough to have built wealth over generations. So tough luck to you. When candidates competed to show who was tougher on immigrants, they left unsaid that immigrants are working people. They're janitors and they're doctors, the farm workers and the computer scientists, the home care workers and the small business owners. They do work that needs to be done, and that makes America great too. While candidates painted a picture of hardworking Americans and meant white workers, they left unsaid that the working class is an incredibly diverse, multiracial group of people. And though the intersection of racial and economic oppression disproportionately marginalizes communities of color, white working class people are living in communities that have been dragged and under-resourced by years of deindustrialization and disinvestment. Like so many others, white working class people turn to rage expressed at the ballot box with a protest vote here or an abstention there. I get it. It's painful to say it out loud, friends. And if it's painful for me to say it out loud, I know it's painful to hear. It's even harder to live in this reality. But it's a pain that too many people have gotten used to, almost numb to. It's a pain that builds up over days and weeks and months and years and then generations, and then it flashes out in rage. Deep down, we all feel some piece of this, either through empathy or sympathy. So let's sit with that for a second. I want you to take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. I want you to feel your body supported. I want you to feel the energy and the presence of all of these people of goodwill on this call. And then I want you to take another deep breath in through your nose, breathing in our collective knowing, our body wisdom, our generational, our ancestral wisdom. And I want you to breathe out through your mouth. Breathe out the temptation to numb, to turn away from our responsibilities to do something about this. I want you to breathe in a reminder that we are the ones, in fact, that we've been waiting for. And I want you to breathe out any doubt that you don't have everything that you need in your bones to be able to show up right in this moment. So, yeah, candidates talk about the American dream. And what they've left unsaid is, as Langston Hughes put it, that dream is almost dead for so many of us today. As we close out this grounding, let's immerse ourselves in Langston's words of defiance and of hope. This is an excerpt of his poem, Let America Be America Again. Let America be the dream the dreamers dreamed. Let it be that great, strong land of love where never kings connive nor tyrants scheme, that any man be crushed by one above. It never was America to me. Oh, let my land be a land where liberty is crowned with no false patriotic wreath, but opportunity is real and life is free. Equality is in the air we breathe. There's never been equality for me, nor freedom in this homeland of the free. Say, who are you that mumbles in the dark, and who are you that draws your veil across the stars? I'm the poor white, fooled and pushed apart. I'm the Negro bearing slavery's scars. I'm the red man driven from the land. I'm the immigrant clutching the hope I seek and finding only the same old stupid plan of dog eat dog, of mighty crush the weak. Yet, I'm the one who dreamt our basic dream in the old world while still a serf of kings, who dreamt a dream so strong, so brave, so true, that even yet its mighty daring sings in every brick and stone and every furrow turn that's made America the land it has become. Oh, I'm the man who sailed those early seas in search of what I meant to be my home. For I'm the one who left dark Ireland's shore and Poland's plain and England's grassy lay, and torn from Black Africa's strand I came to build a homeland of the free. The free? Who said the free? Not me. Surely not me. The millions on relief today, the millions shot down when we strike, the millions who have nothing for our pay, for all the dreams we've dreamed and all the songs we've sung, all the hopes we've held and all the flags we've hung, the millions who have nothing for our pay, except the dream that's almost dead today. Oh, let America be America again. The land that has never been yet, and yet must be, the land where every man is free. The land that's mine, the poor man's, Indians, Negroes, me, who made America, whose sweat and blood, whose faith and pain, whose hand at the foundry, whose plow in the rain must bring back our mighty dream again. Sure, call me any ugly name you choose, the still of freedom does not stain. From those who live like leeches on the people's lives, we must take back our land again, America. Oh yes, I say it plain. America never was America to me. And yet I swear this oath, America will be. If you, like me, join the mighty chorus of folks who answer the call of birthing the new America that will be, that country that we've always deserved, and like Langston Hughes are swearing the oath that this America will be, there are many things that you can plug into right now to do in this collective work starting tonight. If you haven't already, you can text the words mass call, MASS space CALL to 30403 for a list of ways that you can take action starting right now tonight. We're going to drop some links in the chat to all of the calls to action that are relevant for tonight. One of the most important being, we're still bringing people together in the We Are Worth Fighting For crew that some of you know about because you were there, and that some of you might be hearing about for the first time tonight. We're going to talk a little bit more about it a little later, but the We Are Worth Fighting For crew has been bringing people together since November 7th to have community dialogue and to start thinking and learning together with plans towards some great next steps, including the absorption of our folks into organizations that are doing life-saving work. So some of you may have already done a community gathering. Some of you might be hearing about it for the first time. But if you go to weareworthfightingfor.org, you're going to find a toolkit, and you can either host or show up to a We Are Worth Fighting For community event. Maybe it's you hosting one because you don't see something happening in your holler or your hood. Or maybe you see that folks are already organizing where you are and you want to just hop in. If you go to the weareworthfightingfor.org website, you'll be able to sign up for that. You'll be able to see what's going on. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. The second thing that you can do is you can RSVP for the future mass calls. We have one. This is the last one for this year. I know. I don't know what I'm going to do without y'all for the rest of December. But in January on the 14th, we're coming back live. So you can RSVP tonight so that you get the reminders to come to the January 14th mass call. We'll drop that link in the chat as well. And then again, when you go on the community gathering website, weareworthfightingfor.org, you'll see multiple calls to action that you can participate in. One of them is leading a wolf pack. If you want to join WFP, there'll be calls to action from Move On and from Indivisible and from Public Citizen. You're going to hear more about those tonight. We will be dropping links in the chat for you to sign up for the calls to action as we continue. Now, let me take a moment to remind you what we're doing here. These mass calls are being hosted by the Working Families Party, and they typically highlight WFP member organizations, allies, and leaders from across the country. I told you that tonight is particularly special, though, and that's because it's our last call of the year for sure, but it's also because we once again have co-sponsored this call with folks from the now infamous 11/7 mass call. Y'all remember, because we almost broke the internet. We'll talk about that more in a second, too. As always, we want these calls to be grounding, to provide you with information and strategic orientation from movement leaders that you can trust, and to give you concrete things that you can do to get off the noisy hamster wheel of information, misinformation, and disinformation that's being thrown at you and all of us, and get us back to power building actions. So if you like what you see here, you want to get plugged in for more, you can text mass call, MASS space CALL to 30403. We have some more mass calls coming up, as I mentioned, and you can find that on our Mobilize page. We'll drop the link for the Mobilize page in the chat one more time. And again, make sure you've texted mass call to 30403. Tell a friend to do the same so that you and they can get the bat signal on when we're going to gather again. And here's what we're going to do on tonight's call. First, you're going to hear from leaders of movement organizations and the groups that were responsible for this call and the mass call that we did right after the election, where we almost broke the internet because so many of you tuned in. We had over 140,000 people register. We had tens of thousands of people sign up for trainings, for We Are Worth Fighting For gatherings, to both host and to attend. We had hundreds of those gatherings. And now we are going to be talking about what our next steps are. So we need you to be paying attention to what these calls to action are going to be. Tonight's call is going to give a little bit of a report back about what the orgs have been doing, about what the lay of the land is now, and what's happened since that call. Then we're going to share with you some ways to get involved right now, tonight. If you've already been active, that's wonderful. This will be your next step. And if this is your first time on our mass call, first time hearing about We Are Worth Fighting For, we welcome you, and this action step is also for you too. Then, as always, we're going to do some political education on our block and build strategy, because the movement that learns together moves strategically together. Finally, we're going to hear from a couple of people who hosted community gatherings in the wake of our call right after the election. We want you to see what it was like, and we want to use it as an opportunity to get inspired and encouraged for more of us to get involved. All right, let's get into it. So we're going to do our political education session in a little bit. But before we do that, we want to hear from some movement leaders who are playing critically important roles in preparing for how we respond to the coming Trump administration. Each of these groups, along with many, many others, are playing an important role in creating the shared organization we will need to weather the storm and keep building power. As you listen to each of these speakers, I want you to be thinking to yourself, which of these organizations might I throw down with over the long haul if you're not already connected to a movement organization? With that, I want to welcome my friends, my colleagues, my comrades, Leah Greenberg from Indivisible. I want to bring up Lisa Gilbert from Public Citizen, and I want to bring up the incredible Maurice Mitchell from the Working Families Party. Y'all give some love in the chat to my siblings, my friends. Thank y'all so much for being back on with us tonight. Leah, I want to kick it off to you first. Like, tell me what's happened, what's happening with Indivisible, and what's going on right now.
Well, thank you. It's so good to be here. It is so good to be in community with everyone here, and just enormous appreciation to everyone who hosted a We Are Worth Fighting For gathering, everyone who attended a gathering over the last month plus 6 weeks. Um, the the fascists, the billionaires, the people who are out to control our country, they want us to feel alone. They want us to feel isolated. They want us to feel powerless. Everybody here who was on that call rejected that and did the hard work of coming together and seeking out that community. And we're so proud to be here with you again tonight. Um, we have indeed been busy along with you. A few weeks back, Indivisible released our own new guide on fighting back against Trump 2.0, a moment of democracy on the brink. We do a updated guide every electoral cycle. We were not at all happy to be releasing kind of a sequel to our original 2017 guide, talking about how we fight back against Donald Trump. But none of us are happy to be in this position. Here is our top line. Donald Trump has been incredibly clear that he wants to be a dictator on day one, right? And that, however, is not how it is going to go unless we let it happen. Because contrary to what Donald Trump thinks, contrary to what Elon Musk thinks, the president is not all powerful. His stakeholders are not all powerful. Power in American society is distributed. It exists at the local level. It exists at the state level. It exists at the federal level. Democracy is indeed on the brink, but it is not finished. And even in this scary moment, we have power and we have levers to pull. And that starts with our own elected officials, the folks who represent us. Some things are still true. They still care about getting reelected. Things that make it harder for them get reelected, they don't like those things. They want to do the stuff that makes you happy so that they can continue to advance their careers and get reelected, even the good ones, even our champions. Fundamentally, they need support from people if they're going to do the work that we need them to do. So if you are organized and if you have a good strategy, you are going to use those incentives to make them do what you want. And to get through this, we have to tap into every ounce of power that each of us can harness in every corner of the country. We have to play different roles. Some of us are going to go on offense. Some of us are going to be playing defense. Some of us are going to be playing midfield and running around a lot. We're all a big team for democracy and for a more just country. And if we play our respective roles, we can tap into an extraordinary amount of power to push back MAGA and to push them out. We've identified some key strategic plays that we can collectively make together. The first is we've got to fight back nationally to stop the harm and to build the backlash to the MAGA agenda. We got to delay, we got to distract, we got to limit attacks. The Trump administration is very bad, but it is made up of humans. They have a limited number of people, a limited number of hours in the day, a limited number of legislative days in Congress. As of today, they're apparently going to spend a bunch of that time fighting each other. Every hour that we can delay them, every hour that we can create challenges for them, that is a day or an hour that they are not able to move on to their next horrible agenda item. We have got to fight back with everything we got. We got to take our own elected officials and whip them into shape. If you have got Democrats representing you, you need to make sure that they are out there being champions and fighting back and presenting a clear opposition. We need none of this go along to get along. We need none of this weird flirtations with Elon Musk. We need people acting like an opposition party, presenting a clear contrast, pointing out how Donald Trump wants to take your money and take your health care to give tax breaks to billionaires. We're not going to win all of the time. We're not going to win a lot of the time, but we can win some of the time. Trump has an incredibly narrow majority in the House, far smaller than his 2017 majority, which we were able to use to stop his attacks on the Affordable Care Act. If Democrats are united, if we actually hold our Democratic reps together, he'll have to use his entire caucus to pass any legislation at all. And as you are seeing right now, that is not easy because the Republican caucus is full of chaotic extremists. While they rarely back down in response to public outrage, they do occasionally. So we're not going to be able to stop everything that he does or he tries, but we can stop some of it. And we can ensure that they pay a political price for all of the horrible stuff they do. We can link those vulnerable Republican Senates and congressional candidates to the most corrupt and damaging parts of Trump's agenda so that when they go back home, when they seek reelection, voters know that they have been sold out. So that's the first play, is fighting at the national level. The second is we got to organize in our blue cities, our blue states, our blue counties, anywhere where we've got Dems in power. We got to play hardball. There is tremendous power. If I will say this as somebody, I get people who come to me and say, "Oh, I've got, I live in Massachusetts. What could I possibly do?" There is so much power if you live in a blue area right now. There in 2017, when Trump took office, there were 6 Democratic trifectas. There are now 15 Democratic trifectas. If you think about the cultural power, the political power, the economic power that that represents, you got to be asking your governor, your state, your attorney general, your legislature, your federal representatives, what are they doing to protect people, to protect policies, to protect progress? How are they going to respond when Donald Trump sends his deportation forces into our states and disrupts our communities and spreads fear? How are they going to make sure that every lever that they have at their disposal is being used to protect the people of our of your state and to protect people in our democracy? We got to just keep making sure that we stiffen those Democratic spines because what we know is that when Democrats lose, they can get a little squishy, and we got to be there to remind them what they stand for. Now, third, we got to protect and win elections in swing states. The election denial movement, it keeps rolling on. They scored some real wins in 2024. And so we are going to have to fight to secure future elections. And we need to get ready to win in 2026 because that is our chance to check Trump in Congress. That is our chance to elect the people who will administer an election in 2028. So make sure that those posts are not controlled by MAGA denialists themselves. That is the moment when we can deliver that national rebuke to Trump, to Trumpism, and that will get us through the next coming years. Now, we also know that wherever we are, we're going to have to organize in solidarity with communities who are under attack from MAGA. From immigrants to trans kids, we know this playbook. Trump tries to divide and conquer. He wages these grievance-based, incredibly cruel attacks to distract his base and the public from the fact that he has no plan to deliver for any of us, that his entire plan consists of turning the federal government over to his billionaire buddies. I want to give special recognition here to those who are fighting these fights in red states, in places where there have been incredibly hostile conditions for a long time, and who have seen often their states be the laboratories of the attacks that are now being replicated at the federal level. You can do an incredible amount of good if you are hooked up locally with the organizations that are representing and supporting the communities under attack. That is often one of the places you can make the biggest difference. So figuring out how you are organizing locally is hugely important. Now, we know the national backlash against this agenda is going to build. The 2020 Project 2025 agenda is not popular. Trump won by literally putting as much distance between himself and that agenda as possible. We know that people will not like it, but we don't know that they will hear about it or that they will know who to blame. So from the very beginning, that organized political opposition that we can put together, that is how we tell the story of what is happening. That is how we fracture Trump's coalition. That is how we build ours. Okay, this all may sound kind of overwhelming. That is why we're going to have to do it together. One of the things that we always say at Indivisible is individuals have opinions, groups, organized communities have power. So your first order of business is figuring out who you are doing this work with and how you are bringing along your friends, your family, your community into the work. In our guide, we talk about the continued importance of organizing those folks and of getting connected with a local organization or connected with a group of people who you can take action through and with together. There's a lot we don't know yet about the kinds of actions that we'll each need to take, but getting connected locally is the first step, or starting that connection locally is the first step. Smaller wins at the local, at the state, at the city and county level, those are the things that are going to add up to the national movement that is capable of pushing back against MAGA horror, that is capable of winning back political power, that is capable of building something better, right? Because that is ultimately what we are fighting for. Coming together tonight and coming together in community and making sure that what communities we've formed in the months since the loss, that those are sustained and that we are collectively hooked in together, that we are all playing our roles on that big team for democracy. That is how we are going to win. So that's where we are, and we hope, however you come out of this call tonight, that you are finding your team.
Leah, thank you for your brilliance. Thank you, Indivisible. Y'all are in the chat, yo. Watauga, North Carolina, Indivisible is here. Multiple Indivisible crews from California, Mesa, Arizona, Winona, PG County, Williamsburg, Arkansas. I know I'm leaving folks out. But Leah, they repping your crew and they were shouting out your leadership. So thank you, sister, for being here. We love you. Y'all, I'm also seeing y'all in great dialogue in the chat as well. While you're picking up this information, you're asking questions. We see that. We're gonna keep blazing through, but know that we see you. And we're grateful. Now everybody's shouting out their indivisible chapter in the chat. I see. Um,
Love
and
it.
yeah, I just want to remind you that again, we can disagree and maybe everything you hear doesn't excite you, but guess what? It's a big tent on this call. So if you stay around, you might find something that you like and fool around and end up with your people. So just keep on listening, sit with the discomfort a little bit. It's all right. If we can't organize with each other, then we're screwed anyway. So take a deep breath, unclench your jaw and your booty cheeks, and let's keep on going through this agenda. Lisa, tell me what's going on with Public Citizen post the call and what your call to action as an organization is in this moment.
Thanks so much, Ashley. Leah, that was incredible. So excited to follow you. As always, it's just amazing to be back with this fantastic group. My first time since the incredible post-election mass call. So I am here to talk explicitly about the outrageous Trump nominees, in particular, Kash Patel. This is something Public Citizen has been focusing on a lot, so wanted to share with this group tonight. As you all know, on the campaign trail, Donald Trump claimed his administration's top priorities will be to protect working families and lower costs. We know this is not true. If it was really true, Trump would be choosing nominees with a track record of protecting everyday Americans who feel like they don't have a voice. But instead, what is he doing? He's choosing loyalists. He's choosing billionaires with massive conflicts of interest, who, if confirmed, will be taking office determined to represent corporate interests and their own pocketbooks rather than the American people. At Public Citizen, we've actually launched a conflicts of interest tracker, and it needs almost daily updates because there is so much corruption to unpack from Trump's nominees. The corruption and the sheer inappropriateness of these noms, of course, also covers the ones that will have responsibility for rule of law and democracy, the head of the DOJ and the FBI. Trump could have nominated an attorney general with a history of prosecuting price gougers or raising prices for working families at the grocery store. He could have picked someone who has sued big tech companies that are invading our privacy. He could have picked an FBI director who has spent their career going after corporate tax cheats. But instead, Trump chose Kash Patel for the FBI and Pam Bondi for attorney general. So, for anyone who isn't familiar, these are dangerous, extreme, and unqualified individuals. And they are really people who meet the only qualification that matters to Donald Trump, a willingness to use the nation's law enforcement apparatus to protect him and his billionaire friends by targeting their political enemies. Pam Bondi is a corporate lobbyist and a crony. Our prospects of stopping her are challenging, but we will continue to message about her K Street connections and her lack of qualifications. That said, we think Kash Patel is a loyalist that could be beatable. So I want to spend some time on him. As folks may know, the FBI director term is supposed to be 10 years long. This is explicitly to avoid politicizing the agency. It doesn't sync up with any given administration, it goes longer. Christopher Wray, the current director, was actually chosen by Trump, but he's resigning before the end of his 10-year term. This safeguard of a 10-year term exists because the FBI, in the wrong hands, is incredibly dangerous to American democracy. Kash Patel has disqualified himself for this post through his own words. He has a 2023 book called Government Gangsters, where he actually creates a list of 60 current and former executive branch officials that he refers to as members of the executive branch deep state. So this list really echoes President Nixon's infamous enemies list. This is not someone we want the helm of the FBI. When he talks about the FBI itself, the agency that he purports to want to run, he has said that the agency is thoroughly compromised and it will remain a threat to the people unless drastic measures are taken. That sounds like someone who wants to burn it down. He has also spread nonsense and hate in numerous ways, including spreading a false rumor that Democrats could be trying to rig the 2024 election by allowing illegal immigrants to vote. He's threatened the media, saying we're going to come after the press who lied about Joe Biden rigging the presidential elections. And he spent significant time lauding QAnon, saying that the head of QAnon should get credit for all of the things he has accomplished. Unfortunately, I could go on and on and on, but I think it's really clear why we should all have grave concerns that Patel, as the head of the FBI, would undermine the rule of law and the mission of the DOJ, including its investigative arm, the FBI, to ensure fair and impartial administration of justice for all of us. So, what can we do about this? So first, for context, the timeline is tight. Though we don't know when specific nominees are going to come up through committee and move to the floor in the Senate, we do know that in term one, Trump had 68% of his cabinet confirmed by the end of February. So we need to move fast. And the first thing we need to do is make sure more people know about these extreme statements of Patel's, particularly a set of Republican senators who may find them overreaching. So to do that, we need everyone on this call's help. We want to engage the Senate in 4 ways. First, we want to drive calls into the Senate. We're encouraging folks to do that during the weeks of January 6th and January 13th. Second, we want to do in-state meetings with senators and their teams. Third, we need a lot of people posting on social media explaining how unqualified Patel is. And then fourth and finally, we want everyone to try and write letters and op-eds on his lack of qualifications and get them published. In DC, we're planning a press event in front of the FBI in mid-January to put a capstone on what we hope will be a flurry of activity. So again, we really need all of your help. There are a set of links that are hopefully coming in the chat right now to assist you. You should see a call-in script, a letter template, sample graphics and social posts. Please use them all liberally. I said this on the last call we all did together, but I think it's really worth saying again as I round out all these tactics. We can win these kinds of fights. We did win them in the last administration. The nominees are just a parade of horribles, but we will be able to knock some of them off if we stay unified and keep fighting. And for those that make it through, we're going to keep working to make clear that they are unacceptable and have to resign. So I just want to end by thanking you all so much for everything you've already done and will do on this fight in particular, on everything that Leah talked about in this intense time. It is so incredibly appreciated by Public Citizen and all the folks on this call.
Lisa, thank you so much again for your leadership and for the incredible work of Public Citizen. Y'all, we know we're hitting you really fast with a lot of next steps, but I promise you links will be continuously dropped in the chat. And if you've RSVP'd and if you've texted mass call to 30403, we're going to send you all of this afterward anyway. So if you miss it in the chat because things are going so quickly, I promise we'll get it to you. More to come. Thank you, Lisa. Maurice Mitchell, come on in the room. What's going on with the Working Families Party since November 7th?
Well, there's so much to say. And before I begin, I just really want to deeply thank you, Ashley, for continuing to lead us and to hold us. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Leah. Thank you, everybody that's on the call. Thank you, everyone tonight for being here. And, as we close out this, there's no other way to define it other than challenging year, I want to offer a few reflections of where I think we go from here, not just in 2025 or 2026, but 2036, 2046. And as always, I offer this with humility because none of us really knows exactly what the next period is going to look like. Yet it's our duty in moments of uncertainty to steel our backs, like Leah said, and to lay out our most powerful, defiant, visionary goals, our strategies, our dreams, our deeply inspired hopes. And the thing that I do know is that we are going to be under a lot of pressure to react. And we're going to be under this pressure to react to the things that the Trump administration does whenever they do it. And they will be provoking a reaction from us. And that's actually part of their strategy. And this is not a new observation, but I think it bears repeating. And if you want a preview of their chaos, look no further than Elon Musk, the Elon Musk directed shenanigans taking place on Capitol Hill right now, where a single man, a non-elected entrepreneur who happens to be the wealthiest man in the world, who bankrolled the Republican Party this year, called on the Republican Party, now that he owns, I guess, to pull out of a vote, and they complied dutifully. Now imagine a 2025 where Elon sends more breathless posts on his platform in the middle of the night, and the Republican Party reacts. And they react to Trump post, and maybe there'll be dueling posts to decide who actually is the president, right? So we get it. We could imagine that. And Trump and his goons are going to set a whole bunch of fires, right? They're going to do that. And they do that partially in the hopes of keeping us running here to there, because they want us to act like a bunch of disorganized little fools, scurrying all over the place with our buckets of water. That's their game plan. They want us off balance and stuck in a short-term mindset. And they certainly don't want us designing and acting on a long-term power building strategy. They do not want us to do that. At the Working Families Party, we are already planning for 2026 elections and even thinking about plans for 2028 and beyond. But I want to talk to you tonight about something we at WFP are calling our WFP decade. The Democratic Party is going to have their electoral map for 2026. They will be picking districts that they think they could win, and with the major goal of taking back the House and to provide a check on Trump's power. And for very good reasons, most of us on this call will be supportive in those efforts and likely align our strategy, our short-term strategy, our short-term electoral strategy with that map. Now, we agree with the need to throw up blocks against Trump's power, and we will willingly agree to focus time and effort into organizing in the places on the map where there is the greatest short-term potential to do so. At the same time that that's true, we at the Working Families Party suspect there is something I'm calling the WFP map. This map will have a lot of similarities to the map being designed by the Democrats, but we will also be applying our own independent and strategic logic to what this map might look like. Some of the bets we're making will help us win in 2026, but some of these investments will take at least a decade to bear fruit. We are playing the long game, but we envision a future political map that is not just red or blue or purple. We envision a political map where patches of WFP orange are starting to emerge. And these patches may start small and local, and those patches may even emerge in unlikely places. But we think this match is actually attainable over the next decade. Now, let me give you some examples of what I mean. In so-called blue states, we want to lift up a governing agenda that speaks directly to the needs and to the hopes of working class people. In some cases, this will be an agenda that lawmakers in Democratic-controlled state legislatures will agree with. But in other cases, we intend to advance issues that not all Democrats will agree with, because we believe that we need to raise the stakes for Democrats who, for whatever reason, are standing in the way of real and sustained and structural progress on issues like taking on corporate power and inequality or investing in our communities in real ways, not just tinkering around the edges. Now, in those legislative chambers, we are going to continue building caucuses of WFP-aligned legislators, because that is something that political parties do to flex power and advance a people's agenda. Now, in purple and red states, we want to deploy all of our organizing capabilities and those of our member organizations and our allies to the task of constructing the electorate that we need to win in those places. There's been a lot of talk about the electorate that we actually need, about winning working class people of all races, and not just win with anybody. We do not plan to accept the Democratic Party logic that has been the prevailing logic for way too long, that the best way to win in these parts of the map is with milquetoast, consultant-driven campaigns that try to get us excited about some rich dude who's willing to self-finance his own campaign. We intend to show that we can win in these places with WFP-aligned working-class heroes, that we could be deeply proud to stand with, stand behind, and serve for the people. And in some places, where the election rules make it possible to do so, we're going to run our own standalone WFP candidates. This is exactly what we did in the city of Philadelphia, the city of brotherly and sisterly and sibling love, right? Now, in Philadelphia, the Democrats and the WFP are the two major parties. It's a two-party town, Democrats and WFP. We passed real protections for renters, and we're putting the Democrats on notice that they have to catch up to us or they're going to get left behind, right? So winning on all of these parts of the map in all these different ways over the next decade will involve getting really serious about the practice of building a base of organized people. I heard Leah say that individuals basically exert their opinion, organized people exert their power. That's exactly what we have to be super serious about. It will also involve innovative voter programs that WP is designing and which, as a political party, we are in a unique position to execute. And while the Democratic Party's map may focus on the national picture because that's where the resources always tend to flow and where the political consultants can get their biggest paychecks, the WFP map is going to be really, really serious about building local power from the grassroots up. We're going to be systematically recruiting and training working class people to run for office. I think some of our future candidates may be on this call right now, and we're going to support folks on the ground level because if you want to get working class badasses in Congress, you have to start years earlier getting those people elected to school boards and city councils and learning how to govern with the people. So I lay out this vision of the WFP decade and the WFP map because I want to give you a sense of what it will take to hold both the need to act in the moment as Trump is setting fire to things, while at the same time continuing to hold the long-term vision of where we are going. While they destroy, we build. We build a future. We weave together our stories, our power, and we build that future. We build the future of a new democracy. So for me, all roads lead to building power from within working class communities and building WFP into a new force, and that it can truly represent our interests on the US political map that is for, by, and of working class people of all races in all regions of this country. We all know this won't be easy, but I personally am ready for this fight, and I hope you are too.
Y'all give it up one time for Maurice Mitchell, the National Director of the Working Families Party. Y'all, I see your calls for Mo to run for president, but I need him to be the National Director of the Working Families Party right now. But good organizing can make impossible things possible, and I trust that you will do that. They're campaigning for you already, brother. You should know that. You're getting a lot of love in the chat. Lisa, Leah, Mo, thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you for being amazing people and movement leaders in this work. Thank you to the staff and the members of every single one of your organizations. Again, remember these folks, good people. Remember these organizations. These are some of the groups that are creating long-term ways for all of us to get involved and stay involved in a way that works for each of us. And I just want to remind you of some of the brilliant little golden nuggets that they just dropped on us. Right? They told us that we should not obey in advance. They told us that we should organize in blue areas and in red areas. I saw folks talking about the need to organize in these rural communities, and I agree. We talked about solidarity being our only way through this. We talked about, folks already talking in the chat about doing these community gatherings. Rick from West Virginia said he's got one planned for the new year. I see you, right? That we've got to organize in these red states. We can't leave anybody behind, right? That we're going to find our people. We're going to go on the weareworthfightingfor.org website, and you're going to click the link that allows you to find a community gathering. For those of you that are like, yo, I can't host one, but I see a bunch of people in the chat like, where are the people from Michigan? And where are the people in Georgia? Where are the people in this place and that place? Well, you can literally just go to the website, weareworthfightingfor.org, click find a community gathering and see if one's on there. You can go, if you click that, it's going to pop up another website where you can see a map. If you look at the left side of the screen, you'll see a map. You can click that and you'll see big bubbles where you might be. And if you don't see a bubble yet, that doesn't mean folks aren't organizing where you are. Maybe organizations just haven't put their stuff on the website yet, and that's totally okay. You should keep looking at it and making sure you're updating to see what you can connect to. But I'm also going to ask you to take a step of faith, a faithful next step towards fighting for democracy, fighting for this better world that we all deserve, and maybe take a risk to host one. And if you click that, you'll be able to put up the lighthouse that allows people to see that there are folks that are interested in organizing together in this moment. So I've talked about ways to get involved, and I promised we were going to give you something that you can do right now. So if you were here for the call that we did right after the election on November 7th, where we almost broke the internet because so many people signed on, I challenged you to sign up to host one of those We Are Worth Fighting For community gatherings. People did them in their homes, they did them in their churches or their synagogues, their mosques, in their union halls, or wherever it made sense for them. The response to the call to action was incredible. We had tons of you sign up to host right then and there. We even had more of you sign up to take an online training for how to host, right? You were like, listen, I'm willing to take that faithful next step if you all will like walk me through a process. So we had created a toolkit to help you with it and a training online virtually that supported folks who wanted to host. We had people sign up to join those gatherings that other people were setting up. All of this was happening live and in real time. Some of it happened right, like immediately after the November 7th call. It was a beautiful thing, y'all. Now we have to follow up on that action, right? We can't just leave it at that one community gathering. So we've created another We Are Worth Fighting For training guide. Again, if you go to weareworthfightingfor.org, you can click the word toolkit, or you can scroll down a little bit. It'll say take action now, and you can click get the toolkit that's under get the gathering toolkit. If you click that, you'll get that training guide that will walk you through step by step the process of hosting another gathering, going a little bit deeper this time. You'll learn about how we can continue the practice of gathering together, but knowing that we need to be organized and integrated locally as much as possible over the next 4 years and beyond it. And we'll give folks a clear vision for understanding the work and the fight ahead, as well as how they fit in to that work, where we can build collective strategy, deepen it, move forward, and fighting together. So good, people. I need you to check that out. Some of you might be saying, well, Ash, I already did that. I had my community gathering already. We're already talking, we're already meeting. So for those of you that are saying that, I'm glad you already did. I commend you for that. But this training guide is about taking folks locally to the next step. And some of you might also be like, well, crap, this is like the second toolkit. This is what to do if you've already done a community gathering. But honestly, never fear. This training guide can also serve as your first step. That's totally okay. Later in the call, we're going to hear from a couple of folks who hosted one of these We Are Worth Fighting For community gatherings. They're going to tell us what a powerful experience it was and how it's leading them to take the next steps in their organizing. So if you want to sign up to take action with us by hosting a We Are Worth Fighting For community gathering, again, you can go to weareworthfightingfor.org. We're going to drop that link in the chat. And we're going to also keep sending it to you. So I've seen folks say like, yo, it's moving real fast. How do I get these links? Well, I told you, if you text mass call, MASSCALL to 30403, you're going to get these links. Y'all also know we record all of these. So it'll all be in this Zoom on a website that I will give you. And also when we follow up via email, we'll try to make sure that we include all of the links. So don't worry. We promise we'll make sure you've got the information. And for everything that I just mentioned, you can go to weareworthfightingfor.org. When you go there, you can sign up to host a community gathering. You can download the toolkit, and you can find a community gathering near you. I want to take a second and see if anybody's already signed up. I already told you, I saw Rick in the chat said, yo, we about to have one in the new year in West Virginia. Tell me, talk to me. Let me know you're organizing them. Here's the cool thing. On the weareworthfightingfor.org website, you can find the events like I mentioned. You can see activities from all of the organizations that you just heard from. You can join their events. You can connect with them to continue the work of long-term organizing in your neighborhood and a community near you. And if one of the campaigns or the issues that you heard about from one of these speakers is right up your alley, it's the thing that keeps you up at night, it's the thing that you feel called to change, you can also connect directly with that organization and get involved by going to that website. So again, go to weareworthfightingfor.org to sign up, to get resources, to connect with the organizations that are hosting this call. We're going to drop in the chat again the link. It is weareworthfightingfor.org. Okay, y'all. Now we got to get some good learning with our political education session. We're going to get into that right now. Okay, so WFP now has hosted, this is our 13th mass call, y'all. We started doing this in April. This is our 13th mass call. And each time I've had the privilege to beam into your computer screen or your tablet, your phone. At least one time I got to do that on your TV screen on November 7th. And I thank you for not considering it robbery to spend this time with me. We started these calls during the primaries and we kept rolling through the twists and the turns of the general election. And now we're continuing in this post-election period. Thousands of you have been tuning in. And if you've been following along regularly, you're going to remember that we've been in the middle of doing a deep dive on the concept of power. We've been talking about the kinds of power that we need to build, how we measure our power, and how we wield power effectively and in line with our values. We're going to get back to that theme, but today we're going to take a bit of a detour because, again, we're joined by our friends and allies that you heard from at the top of this call. To start, like we always do in these political education sessions, we want to take some time to go over some of the material that we've covered on past calls to make sure we're all on the same page. And if you're joining us for the first time, again, I want to welcome you. If you've been on every single one of the past 13 mass calls that we've done, consider this your quick review. We start every single one of these political education sessions with this picture. This is a picture of the current political crisis in the United States. This picture was true before the election, and it continues to be true after the election. In this picture, regular working class people, like many folks on this call and like our friends and our relatives, we're left in a situation with a bad set of choices. We have a Republican Party that's under the control of an authoritarian faction. We have a Democratic Party that sometimes is too much influenced by corporate forces and catering to the interests of affluent voters. We have a two-party system that limits our room to make a lot of big moves. Our political system works as a zero-sum equation. If the Republican Party loses strength, it translates to strength for the Democratic Party and vice versa. If Democrats lose support, it directly translates into strength for Republicans. This can make it really hard for working people that are angry and want to punish elected officials and parties without, experiencing unintended consequences. So let's put an even finer point on this picture. We've already seen media realizing its true colors as corporate media and media owned by billionaires. They're cozying up to Trump or buckling under the pressure of his threats and lawsuits. We've seen more and more of the tech sector, supposedly a bastion of big money support for Democrats, falling in line with Trump. And even within elected Democrats, we have to deal with an ideological opposition to fighting for working people. For example, even as they're both leaving office and have no need to run for election again, our so-called friends, Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin, are using their last bits of power in the Senate to hurt working people. They're blocking Biden's appointment to the National Labor Relations Board. This is going to allow Republicans to have power over unions, and it'll make the lives of working people that much harder. This is not all happening by accident, friends. It's because powerful forces have either completely or in part been taken over. They're taking the parties, both major parties, the Democrats and Republicans alike. They are clear on their class interests, and they're not our interests. All of this is contributing to the crisis in our political system that people everywhere can see plain as day. In this context, with few choices and many structural limitations, the Working Families Party talks about the fact that elections are a chess move. They're not a love letter to a particular politician. We have to be strategic, and we have to be thinking many moves ahead. On past calls, we've also introduced the idea of fusion voting, and I've seen some of y'all talking in the chat that you support fusion voting. Fusion voting allows us to imagine what it would look like if we were making our electoral moves on a slightly more favorable chessboard. Fusion is a system of voting that still exists in several states in the United States. It used to exist everywhere before the major parties got wise and ganged up to get rid of it over 100 years ago. With fusion voting, we would not have to worry about the spoiler effect because we could support the candidate that's closer to our values and then fuse our votes for that candidate in order to make common cause against the MAGA threat. Let me break that down a little bit. Another way to think of fusion is that it allows us to block the really bad guy on the ballot while still building our own electoral power in every single election. What do I mean by that? Well, again, I'm glad you asked. In this example, you can see that the Working Families Party is supporting a Democrat named Fannie Freedom. She's running against the Republican candidate, Max Moneybags. While this is interesting, it gets this nomination actually showing up on the ballot. Every voter gets this ballot. And voters get to vote for Fannie Freedom on the WFP ballot line if they want to. And all of those votes count for Fannie Freedom. And like in this example, quite often it happens in states where we do have fusion that the number of people who vote on the WFP ballot line actually end up being greater than the margin of victory in the race. So in the end, we blocked Max Moneybags from winning. He failed. But in doing so, we were also able to build and to show our electoral strength together. Now, I don't know about you, but if I were a candidate and someone was responsible for delivering me the votes that I needed to win my election, I might, in fact, show up and listen to them. So, fusion voting is an example of one kind of chess move that we can make during elections. And you've heard from some of our colleagues about the other ways we can influence how governance impacts our everyday lives. But like I said, it only exists in a few states, this fusion voting, as it stands right now, because the major parties got together and they banned it in most places. Because of that, our electoral chessboard is generally more two-dimensional. And on that two-dimensional chessboard at election time, we have to line up in formation and be part of a united front against the MAGA threat. Of course, in the last election at the national level, we were the junior partner in the united front. That means the Democratic Party by far had the most resources, and they played the primary role in choosing and then re-choosing their top of ticket candidate. Y'all remember, whether we liked it or not, they had control of the strategic direction of the campaign. We should not throw stones from the sideline, though. Our goal is to someday find ourselves in the leading role in the united front, in this unified team. This is dependent on how much power we build in this moment. And in case you're sitting there thinking, this won't ever happen in my lifetime, I invite you to remember that there's more to this than just presidential elections, y'all. Y'all have been talking about it in the chat. We're already playing this kind of role in several cities and state legislatures, even at the congressional level. On a past call, we talked about the fact that now that the election is over, we find ourselves on a three-dimensional chessboard again. The three-sided chess is the same game as regular chess, except that instead of one opponent, we're playing against two. Sometimes we're going to be working with one of the other players in the game to advance our shared interests, but ultimately we're each holding down our own position. Again, from the WFP perspective, we have power moves to make on this new chessboard. The first power move is that we need to look for strategic openings to break working class people away from the Republican coalition. We've got to pick smart fights in the coming months that signal that whatever lies Trump was selling about being a man of the people, about wanting to fix the economy in a way that benefits working families and not just his billionaire buddies in the broligarchy, were actually bullshit. It's our turn to call bullshit on these lies and making that clear to our people. Trump is the boss who doesn't pay you on time. Trump is the landlord that raises your rent. He builds private clubs and golf courses for the rich to hang out and laugh at the rest of us. He and his billionaire buddies are looking to make themselves richer and make us poorer. They are building their power at our expense. And using some of these breaking moves on the Republicans, we almost certainly will be joined by the Democratic Party. They'll be looking for ways to weaken Republicans as they're thinking about strategy for the 2026 midterm elections. Again, from a WFP perspective, we will welcome this unified effort with the Democrats because we recognize that the more directions that this blocking is coming from, directed towards MAGA, the more likely it is to land squarely on our desired target. But we won't stop there. We'll also be looking for moves to wedge the corporate wing of the Democratic Party and to minimize their influence over that party's direction. We will accomplish this through organizing, through candidate recruitment at the local level, through lifting up issues and picking election fights in the primaries to advance our position. The next power move we're going to be using is bridging. Our task is to organize, y'all. Organizing gets the goods. Y'all have heard it before. We need to build bridges with working class people across race and region. We know that many working class people are sick of politics and they're done with both of the major parties. These are people we need to be talking to. We need to recruit them. They need to be our leaders. They need to be our candidates. We need to grow our base of people. And as time goes on, we'll be pulling more and more people into our orbit. They'll become harder and harder to ignore. Of course, because this is a three-sided chessboard, we should also be prepared for attacks to come against us from both the Republicans and the Democrats and some other folks. They may even team up to attack us. This is something that we've certainly seen happen many, many times before in the Working Family Party's 26-year history. But when that's happening, we'll know that something we're doing is really working and we'll do our damnedest to be prepared for it. This is just one more reason for us to be thinking like chess players and planning many moves out. The path is not always clear, so we have to have the discipline, the rigor to think and act strategically at all times. So whether or not you see yourself as being drawn into building a strong faction inside of the Democratic Party, I've seen some of y'all on the call. What's up? Thank you for being here. Or whether you're drawn to working to build an independent alternative on the left of that. I see y'all in here also. Welcome. There's work for us to do across those poles and between them. Fascists depend on convincing us to give our power away and to fall in line. They want us to believe that the fight is over and we have lost, or that this is just normal. Fascists and corporate interests across parties would prefer that we spend more time fighting each other than building our power together. And while we must be clear-eyed about that threat, we must not do the work of the fascists for them by giving them our power that we should actually be building for ourselves. Trump wants to govern as a dictator, but he has the slimmest possible congressional majority and a grossly unpopular agenda. Winning an election with 49.9% of the vote of those who actually got to vote does not make him a dictator for life, and it certainly doesn't make Project 2025 the immediate law of the land. That only happens if we let it. We don't resist, if we don't show up, if we're not in solidarity with one another. The truth is that political power resides in many places, from local to state to federal. To stave off the fascists, we must tap into that power in every corner of this country. We must organize ourselves to block their attacks, to break MAGA's political strength, to build a winning majority coalition of our own. I need somebody to type "our winning majority" in the chat. I need you to believe that when we come together, we can actually win, and that there's more of us than the people that intend evil to our communities. I need you to talk about this winning majority in the chat. I see you and I feel it in my chest, y'all. No matter where you see yourself on this spectrum, we have to be committed right now to doing these things. We have to protect our people at all costs. We have to be prepared to disrupt and disobey. We need to defend our institutions, and we have to build alternatives. Leadership in this moment has to come from regular people like us, not just the politicians. We have concrete strategies and tactics in our organizations that collectively will help us limit harm, will help us win in 2026, will help us rock out with our labor movement siblings on May 1st, 2028. I'm excited to see y'all there. And to finally throw MAGA out once and for all in November of 2028 to build our power for the next decade and beyond that. In our next mass call on January 14th, we're going to keep talking about the work ahead. We're going to need to keep growing from the power being generated by these calls and calls like this to building an integrated and coordinated division of labor between organizations and people. Y'all, every single one of us has a role to play. And I hope you're starting to see what your role could be as we continue to build the mass call. We're also going to keep digging into the concept of the power that we have to build. We're going to look more deeply at the idea of the power of building movement infrastructure. Y'all know I'm a movement infrastructure nerd. This is the kind of infrastructure that allows us to align a whole lot of different organizations and issues into a unified front that has the ability to set the political agenda. That's what power is. It helps us push for real structural changes to our economy, our political system, and the system of who has power and who doesn't in the United States. We're not talking about super organizations or Frankenstein coalitions of convenience either. We're not talking about just symbolic solidarity, which ain't solidarity at all, or performative politics. We're talking about doing the long-term organizing work of knitting together something that has a real basis of unity, something that allows for difference of analysis and sometimes difference of tactics, narratives, but which is unified by a shared strategy of where we're going and deep bonds of trust. The right wing has sometimes been very, very good at this kind of power building work. We need to get a whole lot better. So I need you to get registered and stay tuned for the next call, which again is going to be on January 14th. We're going to drop a link so that you can RSVP to the next mass call in the chat. But you can just go to mobilize.us/workingfamilies/event/342586. And again, if you don't catch it in the chat, it's all good because we're going to send this out to you anyway, especially if you've already texted mass call to 30403. As always, if you like these political education sessions we've been doing on these calls since April, we're posting all of the recordings, all of them, but tonight's call are already on the WFP website. So you can go to www.workingfamilies.org/mass calls. We'll drop the link to that as well. Again, check out all the recordings and materials from our past calls there. And we've also put downloadable versions of every single slide and all of my speakers' notes for these political education sessions right there on the website. You can find the materials again at www.workingfamilies.org/mass calls. We'll drop that link one more time. Again, if you've texted mass call to 30403, you'll get the bat signal with these links and our next gathering. I also want to remind you that this is your opportunity to sign up for or to find and register for a We Are Worth Fighting For community gathering. Maybe for your neighborhood, it's the second one. Maybe for your community, it's the first one. But I need you to sign up, and I want you to sign up tonight. And if you've done it, I want you to drop in the chat that I've signed up for a community gathering, or I've registered an RSVP to attend one. I need you to go and do that tonight. If you're like, yo, I can't do that right now, Ash, but I've signed up to be a dues paying member or to join WFP or Indivisible or Public Citizen or Move On or any of the organizations like Showing Up for Racial Justice, the Movement for Black Lives, Seed the Vote, all of these incredible organizations that have hosted this call tonight. If you've joined one of them or you are already a member, you can also shout that out in the chat. I also want you to RSVP for the January 14th mass call. And again, that will be a way for you to continue to stay engaged, come together and do this learning and strategizing together. We'll make sure you get those links. Now, comrades, I know we're after the hour, but we still have two incredible speakers that I want you to hear from tonight. We're going to go on and start to bring them up. I want to introduce you to my brother, Jesus Ramirez. Y'all know Jesus because he's a community organizer that's been in these union streets with Education Minnesota. They represent more than 84,000 educators in the great state of Minnesota. Can you give it up for Jesus? And then I get to bring up my sibling, Kaya Chatterjee. I think I'm dropping some movement tea on the call tonight because I get to announce her as the new director of Free DC. Y'all show some love to our comrades that are here with us tonight. I see all the claps in the chat. I appreciate y'all. Y'all show some love to Jesus and Kaya. Jesus, let's start with you. I mean, we've talked a little bit about like the importance of coming together in this moment of lots of noise, lots of chaos, lots of confusion, lots of fragmentation, and a real intentional threat against our people. What it means to come together to like learn and to grieve and to celebrate together, to strategize and build people power together. And I know that's been your work. That's been the work of your organization. Y'all have been doing that before, and we'll do it from here until freedom. So tell me a little bit about what it was like for you to host We're Fighting for community gathering, and what you would want folks that are considering it to know.
Man, well, thank you so much. Like gratitude for all the information you shared right now, and just for all the efforts that you put forward. Gratitude to everybody here in the space. I gotta be honest with you. I was feeling and completely, utterly just devastated by the results. And what I started feeling was alone. And I started analyzing what that felt like and what it was doing to me, creating a sense of paralysis. And I can't go out like that, you know? And knowing very well that a lot of my efforts is not about me at this moment, but it's about what I'm being part of building. What am I building for the future? And so I needed to sit in community and be able to sit with others that were feeling the same way, that could relate to what I was feeling. One thing I just realized though right now is that there's very few people that can relate to responding the way we have. Like those in this phone call right now. When we felt the most biggest blow, we didn't just go ahead and cave off. It was organizations like this created a space and an opening, and we moved towards it. That's a biggie right there, because not too many cats can say that. We could feel the blow, but we responded to it. And so knowing that uncomfortability creates growth has been pivotal for me to be able to model it for not only others, but for myself, because I didn't feel like I had the power. So sitting down at those meetings, which is now 5, I've seen the growth that's happening there. Attending this call right now and being part of over 1,000 people, just being part of this movement at this very space at this very moment is only pushing me further to open up that toolbox and figure out what's next and imagine what could be happen. Imagine and be part of that growth. And so that does come. I welcome us all to walk into that space. Thank you so much for letting me share.
Can y'all give it up for Jesus one time? I'm feeling motivated. I'm feeling agitated. I feel like Jesus like gave us like a call to action just right there. It's like, we can't just let them drown us out, y'all. Like they only win if we stop, like we've said on the calls, right? They only win if we're numb and if we stop doing the work to save ourselves. Ain't nobody coming to save us. It's us. And Jesus did the work in Minnesota. So appreciate you, brother. Okay, I'm tossing it to you. Tell me what it was like in DC.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm super excited, as you announced, Ashley, to be co-founding Free DC with Nene Taylor, Alex Dodds, and so many amazing leaders in DC. I held one of the We Are Worth Fighting For gatherings the Saturday after the election, so it was raw. It was real raw. And we had this, it's pretty small because some people weren't ready, and that's okay. But we had an incredibly, diverse, multiracial group of folks get together. And one of the things we started talking about was that in DC, where we are one of the communities under attack. And we are not free the way we are right now today, and the way we have been, we are not free. Because we don't have representation in the legislature that makes our decision. We don't have control over our National Guard. That's why on January 6th, we couldn't respond as a community. We don't have these basic rights that other people have, even in this country. We aren't the only ones who are not free, but we are definitely not free. And one of the things that really came up very strongly in our call at the beginning, when we were like writing our emotions and the circle, was this feeling that we're the canary in the coal mine and that this coal mine is deadly. And we moved from there because, we had federal government workers in the room. We had Palestinian neighbors. We had Latina neighbors. We had Native Black Washingtonians in the room. And we realized that, we have got to do something about this. So that framework you were talking about, Ashley, we divided up the framework. We started figuring out what we're going to do. And we set this goal for ourselves. And I think I heard Jesus say you've met 4 times. We actually started meeting almost every week with what started ending up becoming Free DC. Because we had this goal, we want to organize at least 25,000 people in DC, and we want to be able to refuse to cooperate because this is a beautiful place. And we have this joyful and resilient and creative and connected, amazing community here in DC. And for some reason, people don't want to give us equal rights. And if that's the way it is, then we're just going to go get them. And so that's the plan.
Kay said, we get what we organized to take. We gonna get what's ours. We just gonna go get it. Man, what would happen if we had the audacity to believe that if we just went and got it, we would get it? We could get it. We got what we need to sustain it. We could actually enjoy it. I believe that with the over 1,000 people that are still on this call tonight, that we could do it, even with just us. But guess what? We already said we're a part of the winning majority. So how about we act like it, y'all? Can we give it up one more time for Jesus and for Kaya, y'all? Like, they did the work. They are two shining examples of what it means when you bring people together. One is like they want to keep coming together. They want to keep putting in work. They want to learn together. They want to strategize, and they want to develop together the faithful next steps that they can get to win the things that they deserve. Ultimately, building our own people power, building our own governance power, building our own economic power. Y'all, like, these folks are doing it. I hope they gave you a word that inspired you to sign up. I also just want to say, if these folks that have spoken tonight ain't put you in a mode to be ready to study, to train, to get your house in order for our great comeback like the right has never seen, I don't know what will, y'all. These folks have been incredible, and I'm ready to be a part of the great comeback with the rising majority, y'all. It's us. This has been another powerful night spent together, beloveds. For those of you who've been on all of our 13 mass calls so far and plan to be on the next one on January 14th, y'all are amazing. And I wish for you every possible good thing and impossible good thing this holiday season. And for those of you that have joined us for the first time tonight, I hope you found this call to be grounding. I hope you found some of your people in the chat and that it made you feel a little bit more ready to take action in the weeks and the months and the years ahead. I want to give you a special invitation from Ashley herself to come hang out with us again on January 14th. If you're not here, I really will miss you. Please come kick it with us on January 14th, same time, same place. It's going to take all of us, y'all, working together in the new year to weather the storm that's coming our way. We know it's a storm. We're not going in naive. We know it's going to be hard. But as I've said before, and I'll say it again, I believe in us. I believe in you. I believe in our creativity and our resilience and the power of our resistance. I believe in our compassion and our shared humanity. Whether you're Black or white, Latino or Asian, Native, Indigenous, whatever beautiful mix of many things, whatever your ideology or your identities, or when or how your families arrived to this country, our job is to build something beautiful and bigger than any of us alone can accomplish. We're building power to protect and defend our people, to win in 2026 and in 2028, to win in the decades to come. It's not an overnight job or an easy task. It's going to be lots of work. It's a generational project. But I am committed. Are you committed? If you're committed, I want you to drop in the chat that you're committed, that you're in it with me, that I am not alone on this call with 1,000 other people. Are you ready? Are you in it? Even if you're not ready, are you committed? If you are, I want you to say I'm in the chat. As we hopefully have the blessing of being able to slow down at the end of this trying year, I want to wish all of you peace and joy, some spaciousness to ground for what's ahead, and honestly, some spaciousness to grieve what has been and what we are like anxious riddled because we believe it's coming, right? I want to wish you some time together with the people that you love who love you too. And I wish that we, all of us here tonight, also hold this chosen, this adopted family that we have developed here on the call. I want you to hold all of us in your hearts and minds over this holiday season. The year that's coming is not going to be easy, but easy has never been on our job description or our travel itinerary. We'll get there though. We'll get it because we're together. Together is really the only way we're going to get through this. And just like our ancestors before us, we'll learn to build the power our communities deserve all along the way, all along that journey. I love each and every single one of you. We'll see you on the next call on January 14th. Good night, everyone, and peace to each of you. Good night, y'all.